decide? What made you want to make videos for this kind of music?
All I really wanted to do was draw comic books, and I couldn't get a job drawing comic books. Actually, my senior year, I knew I wasn't going to college. I just sort of one of those things in high school. I just, you know how they have like college nights, like that. I went there because it was just cool to hang out, but I was never picking up flyers like, oh yeah, Stanford. And then my senior year, I sort of sent out all my portfolios to all different comic book companies, and as my senior year was sort of coming to a close, all the rejection letters came in, and I was like, oh man, I better do something. I guess I'll just make music videos. I was the guy with the camcorder, went to parties and stuff and videotaped and all that, and I was like, I'll just make music videos. I mean, it's pretty naive. I kind of borrowed from friends and family some money to make music videos for bands that were on labels that didn't have a video, but I figured if I could make them a video, it might get seen. Shot 2 or 3 of those, and eventually my career kind of just took off. I'm down in Hermosa Beach, and I go into a record store. I meet this guy, Mark Theodore. And Mark Theodore is this cool guy, owns this record store and a record company I didn't really know at the time. At the time I'd made my little business cards, like back in the early 90s, you were sort of, that was a big deal. And remember Kinko's had just kind of like that like marble cardstock, and we started talking about music, and I said, hey, I do music videos here. I gave him the card, and he said, I know a bunch of bands. If anyone needs you, I'll let you know. Like a year later, I come home, and my father says, hey, a guy named Fletcher just called. He's in a band called Pennywise. Wants you to do a video for him. He saw a video you did for a band called Caius on Headbangers Ball about a year ago, remembered your name, and that was the first year MTV started putting names on videos. He remembered my name. A year later, he's in that record store talking to Mark Theodore, who put out Pennywise's first record. And says, I'm trying to find this guy, Darren Doane. Mark Theodore says, hey, he was just in here, here's his card. Gives him the card, Fletcher calls me, I do a Pennywise video. Next thing you know, I do a Pennywise video, Guttermouth wants me to do their videos, AFI, Blink, 10 Foot Pole, Voodoo Glow Skulls, and all of a sudden I'm just in the punk rock community. I'm in the punk rock scene doing videos, and that's how this whole thing started.
You didn't choose punk rock, it was always punk rock chose you.
Growing up, I surfed, I skated, but I wasn't a surfer. I wasn't a skater. I played football all 4 years of high school, but I wasn't a jock. I partied, but I wasn't a partier. I was into comic books and movies, but I was never a geek. I never had a clique. And when all of a sudden I was involved in sort of the punk rock scene, I was sort of working with people who were sort of combinations of all this, because punk rock's got geeks. You've got descendants, right? You've got nerds. You've got surfers. You've got skaters. You have all these things, and I think being able to sort of speak that language and just understand the culture without being the stereotypical or just being just sort of a one-dimensional sort of person in that scene, I think that gave me a lot of freedom to work with a lot of different bands, and somehow I just connected with people. I'm from Westlake, I'm from Thousand Oaks. I had always heard about this band Strife in town. One day I'm at Kinko's and I'm making copies of something, and I go to pay, and the guy gives me all my stuff for free. And it was like hundreds of dollars of stuff, and it turns out, at least I'm thinking, oh, this guy must know who I am. He must know that I direct punk rock videos, and I was wearing my Pennywise jacket. I remember thinking, oh, after like 4 or 5 times of this, getting all these free copies. One day I was sort of leaving, and I go, hey, you into Pennywise? He's like, yeah. And I go, because they're got a concert, you need some tickets or something. He's like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, well, then why the heck is this guy giving me all this stuff? One day I'm there making copies again. He comes over and we're hanging out, and I talk to him, and he mentions that his band's recording their new record. I go, oh, what's your band called? He goes, oh, I'm in a band called Strife. I'm like, oh wait, I've been trying to hear you guys. And I go, do you have like a CD or a tape and I can hear? It's like, I don't got anything. Which is kind of funny, because that's when I first realized that there were these bands out there touring the world, and you couldn't find their CD or their record anywhere. At the time, I just got done doing the Pennywise documentary, and Sid said you should go on tour. I called Victory Records. They put up the money. We went on tour with Strife, and by the time that tour was over, between all the punk rock stuff and now being introduced to the hardcore scene, I was just sort of in this family.
2, 3, 4.
The videos that you then shifted into, the Strife videos, the Far videos, was that sort of like an evolution, getting involved in the hardcore scene sort of away from
Right.
that a little bit?
Well, at the time when I was working with bands like Pennywise and Guttermouth, punk was getting so big, and I got in at the bottom floor. I shot a video for Pennywise, therefore AFI wanted to work with me. I shot a video with Pennywise, therefore Blink-182 wanted to work with me. So I got a pretty long ride as it sort of got big. Major labels had big directors they wanted these bands to work with. They wanted these bands to be imaged. They wanted all this stuff. So as punk got a little farther away from me in regards to just being accessible, I didn't have an agent or a rep, I just couldn't compete. So punk did this, but then all of a sudden the hardcore thing over here, there were all these bands. And I think the advantage I had in my career was being on tour with Pennywise and bands like Strife, because you meet every other band that's opening up for them in the course of that month. So you're going to meet 30 more bands. And I was, I think, the only director probably anywhere in the scene that was actually traveling the country that people actually knew, oh, that's Darren that makes videos. You know, I was inspired completely by what all these bands and labels and fanzines were doing. I'm like, if these kids can put out their own CDs around the world, I should be able to do this with videos. So I really embraced it. It's a part of my life now. It's definitely a part of my roots in my culture, sort of as far as the hardcore scene. Hardcore has kind of become the new punk. It's the new underground. There's so many levels of it, but it's just now starting to creep into the mainstream. Punk got far away, became a big marketing thing. And as the newer hardcore bands came up, all the hardcore labels got bigger, could still could finance bigger projects, and I could still be the one growing within that context.
You're finding that even though that's happening now, you're no longer staying back because you're not, as you said, you're not an agent or a representative. Right. You find that that's not hindering you now with this new insurgence?
When these labels get a major label to invest in them, most of these deals are just a small investment share, and then now they have another person to bankroll. And whether you're Tim at J-Tree or you're Tony at Victory, everyone's got someone fronting you some money to start your label. So you're either paying off your credit card, you're either paying off your parents, or you're paying off a major label. A major label allows you to do some very big advertising, some very big marketing. I think that's a good thing. Why do bands leave independent labels? Well, because they want to get bigger, they want more exposure. So it's either a bigger indie or a major that can now finance independent labels and help get those bands out there. I'm still right in the middle of it, which is great, because now the labels that trust me, that don't play by the rules of, this company represents all these directors and these directors who are vying for these videos. I'm the guy that still has these connections, and I'm blessed that my friends are now having the resources to make and invest into these projects, allowing me to make better and better videos. So now I'm able to grow as an artist. As they grow, I'm able to grow, and I think that's how I've been able to really take hardcore, take punk rock, and give it a definite, defined, big look. I always saw hardcore and punk as the greatest form of rock and roll. Like it was, I saw these bands as stars, and I didn't want to just make them a low-budget video. Hardcore, in a sense, is sort of the anti-style, but it's still style. Hardcore kids know what good shoes are. Hardcore kids, when I went to the East Coast and met hardcore kids, I was like, you guys got it together, right? We're more West Coast, so it's still sunny and hot out here, so it's still beach, But you go to the East Coast and you actually get to taste sort of the hardcore community, and these kids look good. I wanted these bands to look as good as I thought they sounded. hardcore progressed sound-wise, sort of making big sounding records. These big sounding records I wanted to make big videos for.
Would you agree with that? That these kids know what they want because they are schooled in the same way as you, like knowing the music video vocabulary,
Right.
and that's why they come to Darren Doane to make their music video.
I wanted to bring quality, and I think a lot of these bands look at my work and then see that there's still an intimacy with these bands. You know, as much as I can make the bands look big, they don't seem unapproachable. Now that's sort of what I hope for that, but at the same time I have to be honest and still say that the reason why I've gotten most of the work I've gotten is because, well, one, I'm the only guy they can afford. I mean that's true. I'm the only guy they can afford, or I'm the only guy available. But for the most part, I think the bands like my work, and the labels, I'm affordable.
How do you charge? Like, is it a case-by-case thing of what you would charge a band?
Yeah, it also might depend on just what the video calls for. I take whatever amount of money the label says that they can pay, and then I find a way to shoot the video and not lose money. And if I can get a video with this band, and I love it, and I can make something I'm passionate about, and hopefully that'll be seen by other people and still help my work. I mean, that's still how I get work. You know, people see my videos. No one's really hiring me now because, you know, I did the Pennywise video. We're just a new generation. But people are hiring me now because I did the Thursday video, or I did the Poison the Well video. There's always a new group of bands that it is essential for me as an artist and essential for me as a business person whose commodity is myself to make sure that I'm working with the best.
Nowadays, do you think that it's easier to get a video done through, you know, like contacting a label, or like, is it easier to work with bands because they maybe take the video more seriously because they know, wow, people are going to see this?
You know, when I made the first Pennywise video, you know, Fletcher's exact words to me were, "We don't want to make a video, we think videos are lame. But we don't think you make lame videos. So let's make a video. We kind of have to, the label wants us to." And so that's how a lot of it was at first. Now, bands are just into it. Yeah, we get to make a video. Let's do it. So you don't have that. You know, I mean, I still get bands that still feel uncomfortable about the process of making a video, but they still want to make a video. Where prior to that, it was, I'm uncomfortable at making a video and I'm uncomfortable at the process. The greatest bands in the world have made videos, and early on, my motto was sort of like, bands will say to you, you know, just whatever you do, don't make us look like a Metallica video. Which to me, I always thought meant, please make us look like Metallica. I've never felt like I've ever had to reinvent my style because, one, I don't have the money for style. I'm really depending on what's available to me from the bands and from locations. And I don't have a particular style. Most directors have a style. It's kind of like a suit, and they put their suit on every band. And I like that, but it's just never been I've never had that much control of the film medium to say, here's what I'm going to do. Every video I do, hopefully, is dictated by the band. You look at the Norma Jean video, it really is dictated by who Norma Jean is, the intensity of their music, and the dark, scary aspect of their music. Thursday, completely different. Grade, completely different. Pop Narcotic, completely different. Thrice, you know, all these bands sort of dictate how the video is going to be shot. So as long as the music is good and the bands are good, I don't really have to worry about inventing or reinventing, because I'm just hopefully just taking a band and just taking them to their sort of next step in regards to how they get represented. You know, my job is to be an extension of how the band wants themselves to be seen.